I am a man who can appreciate an edgy character. I am a man that is fully down for a very gory, messy series. I mean, for fuck's sake, I love Berserk because it's a very well written series, but I also love the fantasy elements on it and its twist that it does. And this is, I'd like to say as well, this is from the same man that bought an Overwatch Reaper figure because I needed the edge in my household. I needed to have this edgy motherfucker like in my room showcasing his shotguns and going die, die, die. Like, you know, I can appreciate them. Sometimes they are laughable, other times they are lovable. Then you just get Goblin Slayer, who I believe with all the words that he said in this show was just like, I hate goblins, they are horrible, they are not people, I'ma murder the fuck out of them. So this was quite an highly amped up series for a lot of people, and yes, I have heard the name of this series before. It was like a thing where it's like, it was one of those things like, God, like one of those mangas, or I know as well as a light novel, but I didn't really get any attention until like the manga adaptation, at least from what people I know was like, you have to read this, oh my god, it's so dark. Where it is I remember the first chapter of the manga and it was just like, oh, this is horrifying. Oh, alright then, this is just really gory for the sakes of gory. This is very fucked up and twisted. Okay, yes, this is where I'm going, because Goblin Slayer is about a man who slays goblins. There's not a complicated plot here at all. It is a fantasy world. It is, everyone is derived and pretty much named after classes, because this is the one thing I know about the series, is that no one has a fucking name. They're just named after their job title. So you have Goblin Slayer, you have Priestess, you have Shaman, Swords, you know, all this shit. And we see this girl who's a priestess who's like, I'm brand new, I'm joining this whole little guild system, and there's the other people that are like porcelain rank, which is like the weakest ranks, and like, we're gonna hunt some goblins, let's go and do that. Yeah, we need one more person though, we need a healer, wink wink, how about you come with us? Ah, it's alright, so it'll be goblins. And like the whole receptionist is like, do you not want to wait for like other people to do that? And it's like, oh, but they need our help though, we gotta take care of them. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. Basically, they go to this cave, and they're like, wow, we're super inexperienced, and we don't know what the hell we're doing. Sure hope nothing goes bad. It does. Quite. They get attacked by gobos. The girls get raped by them. Which, by the way, again, as someone that's read, watched, and heavily adores Berserk, and how it is used in that series to showcase the horrific horrifications of like what mankind can do to another person, torture, rape, murder. Like, you see all the dark sides of humanity coming out in that series. A lot of the time, it is there to serve a purpose other than like, wow, look at how evil goblins are. Like, again, I feel like it's not very handled which is interesting, because the main reason I was curious about this, because it was the infamous nature that it had when it first came out, Goblin Slayer, and also the fact that White Fox was handling this, which, if people don't know, made Akami ga Kill and are responsible for ReZero, which Akami is kind of the same, where it's like, it is, I love that series because it's campy but edgy. Like, it's like Fairy Tail and Berserk had a love baby. That's pretty much how I always considered Akami ga Kill. But this series, some things I don't like how it handles. Like, oh, it just feels like it's adding the factor in there, and it's like, it's going too far. Like, oh, they're cutting up the guy's arm and going, oh, it's to showcase, like, look at how horrible these little shits are. And it's like, look at how inexperienced this priestess is, and they cannot handle any of this. And then the Goblin Slayer comes up, and he's a huge badass, and he like swipes down and he attacks them. I didn't hate this episode, because a lot of people, when I first saw this, I was expecting a lot of people to say that this is going to be the greatest show this season, which is got very big shoes to fill in there. You know, we've got JoJo Part 5 coming up on here. There's a bunch of from what, at least the stuff that I was excited for. Like, this is a very jam-packed season, especially if we're including like the continuations. You've got, I have to remind you, Attack on Titan Season 3, that is continuing. You have, not to mention, off the heels of like My Hero just ending up, you had Sword Art Online coming out this season, JoJo Part 5, Fairy Tail final season, like it adding into the mix of this. So got like Radiant, Goblin Slayer had a lot of shoes to kind of fill up, especially with like its, at least what we knew of it. I believe Tokyo Ghoul is coming out there. There's that slime thing that's out this season. Like, you've got quite a few shows coming out, and it's like, okay, what do you have in mind then? Like, what can you really do with this material? And again, like, it's weird how they handle the actual Goblin Slayer himself, because sometimes he's in normal traditional animation. There are times that he's in CG, which is kind of weird, because it kind of works out because he is in armor all the time. You don't see him, and you can see that this guy clearly does not give a single other fuck about any goblins, because when it's like, oh, but what if there's a good goblin out there, says the priestess, the fact of the matter is that even though you have just seen some of your party members just getting murdered, like just completely massacred and raped. And it's like, oh, the only good goblins are the ones that stay in their holes. And like, and even if that, he's like, sure, there might be one, but I don't give a shit because I clearly had a bad experience with them. Because all I know about Goblin Slayer is that that's all he is that he's a silver rank adventurer that just hunts goblins. That's all he does. You know, and they talk about in this series where it's like, oh, that Demon King over there. Like, there is a plot going on in the background, and heroes are doing that, but he doesn't give a shit. It's just like, I'ma hunt these things. These are goblins. And these are my quarry. I'm interested to see how it adds a little bit more to that, because it can't just be hunting goblins the entire time. Like, that's his whole thing, and I imagine what their twist on it is that, oh, they're gonna go fight some goblins, but surprise, there's something else in here, and Goblin Slayer will do anything to kill those goblins, even that means fighting other things like giants and dragons and God knows what else in this series. But like, again, I will say the most standout thing out of the entirety was some of the way how I handled some of the lighting. I really did like. I think the soundtrack was the most notable thing, actually. I really liked the soundtrack that came in through a lot of this show, so definitely kudos to that. I thought that was the most standout thing out of the entire thing I caught out of all the shows I've watched so far. Was like, holy shit, it has a really good soundtrack, and I'm like, I want this a little bit more. Again, I'm thinking this back to, like, where Akami kind of did this as well, and it was like, this is why you need to assassinate these people, but then again, they were more cartoony, comical characters, and again, I don't know, there's just something against the whole material of this one, where it's like, it just didn't really feel right to me. I was like, this kind of was really kind of pointless. It's like, we get it, these goblins are fucking horrible, but again, I'm not a person that's a whole against where it's like, you can't use stuff like abuse or rape or drugs or any kind of violence on shows. Like, I am down for them if they're told well, or they are used to set a theme or something, or like help to enhance the story in some way, or you want to paint a picture. It just seems like it's just added there just to add, like, say, like, this is how serious it is, and I don't know, it's you can handle it a little bit better, I'll say. But overall, how was this episode? Was it, because again, the two sides I heard was this episode was amazing, it was a must-watch, and I heard that this was a piece of trash and this is horrible. And honestly, I'm down the middle with this one. I thought it was fine, but again, there were things that ticked me off about it, and there were things I actually generally enjoyed about this episode, whereas, like, I think, if anything, I am more curious now about where this series is going to go, because, like, okay, you did the big, very dramatic, very edgy start. What else do you have to show me apart from the big, you know, oh my god, start of this series? So, curious. And again, this is White Fox, and they've had a good, decent pedigree so far for a while. Like I said, they had Steins Gate come out, which is a heavily revered series and all that. They've had ReZero, like, and normally they handle, I believe that the most notable stuff that they've handled is Mausama, Akame, ReZero, I believe they're, and like Steins Gate. I believe they're the... So they've had a very decent track record, and I know they do quite a few fantasy series, but we don't know how long Goblin Slayer is going to be going, considering that ReZero and the rest of them have been like 24 episodes. It's probably going to be that amount. I don't know how much of the light novel is out there, but I imagine there's a decent chunk out there. Again, I was fine with it. Like, I wasn't thoroughly blown away by it, but I thought, if anything, it's a 6. It's fine, but like, I was kind of expecting a little bit more, or a little bit more drag. It wasn't like this big money gun-ho action set piece or as anything. It was just like, no, I'm gonna just fucking set these goblins on fire and beat the living shit out of them, and showing that it's like, these things are cleverer than what they are. Like, they're using poisons, they're using all kinds of little tricks up their sleeve, and you saw Hobgoblin up there, so I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm definitely gonna get another episode, but again, I was like, I just shrug. I was like, I didn't hate the time I put into this episode, and I'm like, it's something where it's like, maybe the 3 to 4 episode rule might help with this one, but again, nothing to scream ho about. Although, I'm curious to see what you guys think, though. Do you think I'm being a little bit harsh with this episode? Like, again, I don't think it was a bad episode. I just thought it was underwhelming, to say the least, with some of the stuff, and I didn't care for how it handled some material, but we'll wait and see and all that. Again, first episodes can be very deceiving with some shows. Some episodes can have a really bad first episode and then turn out amazing. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, I wasn't too big into ReZero at first when the first few episodes came out, and then I ended up loving that show. So we'll wait and see. But that's all from me. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you guys, though, next time.